Something every game collector strives for is a good collection. Thing is, what qualifies as good will vary from person to person, and no two collections ever look the same. So, in theory, there's no one answer and it should just come down to each individual, right? That sounds good to me, but what about a handful of anonymous people on message boards that say otherwise? Their opinion has gotta be worth something, right? No? Okay, so if it just comes down to the individual, then what are we even listening to me for then? Well, while it does come down to each person, there are still a number of factors everyone considers that we can all talk about in a respectful, positive, non-judgmental way. Just don't tell the message board dwellers it goes against everything they believe. It'll be our little secret. First up, let's talk about consoles and games together, since you can't really have one without the other. I mean, when you're deciding whether or not to add a console to your collection, what's the first thing you think of? That's right, power buttons and how satisfying they are to press. I swear, playing Saturn games is just an excuse for me to press this beautiful button. But for others, it's going to be the games. Heck, there's some consoles that we own simply because of a single game that we wanted to play on it. Now, while you may have certain games in mind when you first purchase a console, once you have that console, it's only normal that you'd start to get curious about other games on the console. I mean, since you have the console, you might as well sniff around the rest of the system's library, right? And when it comes to which games you should acquire for any given console, the first ones that are going to pop up on your radar are likely going to be the games that people refer to as must-haves for the console. I always found the term must-have game to be a bit obnoxious though. Typically, if you must do something, there are repercussions for not doing it. Like, you must drink water or you're going to die. What are the repercussions for not owning Super Mario World? Ah, shoot, we're back here again. Now look, I get how language works. When somebody says a game is a must-have, what they're really saying is just that they highly recommend it. But still, some people say it so passionately that it puts me at unease, like they're coming for me if I don't acquire that game. I think the best way to look at games that people call must-haves is to at least consider them, and if they look like they're for you, then sure, you can add them to your collection. That way it's more personalized. I look at it this way. If you buy every game for a console that people consider to be a must-have because you think it will make your collection good, does it really even reflect what you like at that point? This is the part of the video where I'm going to make my main argument, and here it is. What makes a collection good is how accurately it represents the individual that it belongs to. Remember, 99% of the time, the person who cares the most about your collection is you. So if you can look at your collection with an honest face and say, now this is me, then give yourself a high five. And while we're at it, let me just say this for the folks who play retro games but don't necessarily collect. A terrific option for some people, by the way. In some cases, a good collection for somebody may just be having no collection if that feels like it fits for you. If there's choices within collecting, it only makes sense that there should be choices for how much of a collector you want to be in the first place. That's not to say having a massive collection can't be good as well, though the mindset around having large collections can certainly become abusive. I'll always go back to the time I saw somebody apologize for only having 30 games for one specific console. My brain can't handle that one. I mean, what the heck are we doing that we've developed a collecting culture where somebody would even consider saying that? Of course, the reasons for a large collection being considered good are pretty obvious. If you like something, then acquiring more of it is a normal response. If you have 5 games that become 10 games, how is the 10 not better than the 5? You still have the original 5 games, but with the addition of 5 more. Well, have you ever heard the expression addition by subtraction? The idea is that by getting rid of certain things, it allows what's left to flourish more. Do you have any idea what keeping apples out of the house has done for my bananas' self-esteem? Talk about kings of the kitchen. Okay, but how does this apply to games? Most people would tell you that having a bunch of games on a shelf together looks really good. I mean, what the heck is this? Well, hold on a second. I've been told that the main point of games is to play them. So by having less games, it could allow you to focus more on playing the games that are left. That being said, for some collectors, they may be okay with having some games that they rarely or never play, and the goal of collecting a lot of games might just be more important. I mean, collecting in itself can be enjoyable. I don't see anything wrong with that if it's what brings them the most joy. Remember, I just want everybody to be happy. However, the argument for more games making a better collection has already been made to death, to the point where it's basically just assumed. That's why I'm making the case for a more curated collection that can realistically be played thoroughly as a more viable option than it gets credit for. After all, last I checked, there aren't 900 hours in a day to play games. There's only 24, and most of them we have to spend doing not video games, like sleeping. Geez, so much time just wasted sleeping. Now, all this talk to justify not having a ton of games may come across as just some kumbaya baloney, and I'm just trying to make people with smaller collections feel better. Well, yeah, I am. Do we want certain people to feel bad about their collections? What kind of gatekeeping nonsense is that? Okay, moving on. How about variety when it comes to games? That should make for a better collection. Thing is, this could manifest itself in a whole bunch of different ways, too. A variety of consoles from different time periods, a variety of different games representing different genres, or perhaps even a variety of different games within a specific genre. Honestly, it's kind of hard to not have variety in a collection. It's just a matter of what kind of variety you want to implement. For example, even if you said you collect nothing but mainline Mario games, it could still be argued there's variety amongst those games. I've noticed that collectors tend to focus on specific collecting goals like that too. I always find it interesting to see what different collectors gravitate towards. Castlevania games, shoot 'em ups, RPGs on the Super Nintendo, it could be anything. I think these are cool parts of any person's collection because they clearly have value and meaning for them in a personal way. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone after them. You ever see anybody with a Mr. Nuts collection? I haven't. Another key part of anybody's collection is those items that are either unique or that come with some sort of a personal connection. Maybe it's something peculiar in your collection that may or may not be valuable from a monetary perspective, but for you personally, it's just the coolest thing. Or maybe it's something that has an attachment to somebody in your life who means a lot to you, making it incredibly valuable. I know some people have games that they received as gifts from people who have since passed away, and those games are now very near and dear to them. How could items like that not make somebody's collection more awesome? They're probably the last things they'd be willing to give up if they ever had to part with their collection. If we go back to the old "the house is on fire" scenario, whatever games you would grab out of your collection first to save have gotta be considered the best parts of your collection, right? And yeah, we should save the cat first, especially if you have a chubby cat. They might just think dinner's cooking or something. But as for the litter box, yeah, just let the captain go down with the ship on that one. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would probably also rescue the most monetarily valuable games from their collection, but I'd be willing to bet they'd still save the games with sentimental value first. It's a good question to ask though. Do rare and/or valuable games make a collection better? One of the games in my collection that people tend to notice is Panzer Dragoon Saga. It's a good game that I'm glad to have, but that could be said about any other game in my collection. But the value, some people would say. To which I would say, so what? I like the game, so I don't plan to sell it. Therefore, the monetary value is irrelevant. The value of a game can be conversational, sure, and especially the story of how you acquire some of these games since they can be harder to come by, especially if you pick them up more recently as opposed to years ago. Alright, but by this point I think I've made my stance pretty clear when it comes to what makes a good collection. It's about putting together something personal that's special to you. It's really easy to get caught up in the mindset of having notable games, or even just a notable amount of games, to feel like your collection has more credibility. Thing is, there will always be people who have more games than you, and people who have less games than you. So you might as well just enjoy your collection for what it is, and make it something that works for you. Okay, in the spirit of my everybody is special in their own special way tone that I've taken for this video, I've got a fun idea for the comments to leave for this video. I want everybody to say what it is about their collection that they like most. This could be anything, how it's easy to manage, how it's enormous, a few special items, maybe just a handful of games that you really like. I'm gonna have a lot of fun reading your answers, that's for sure. So with that, leave your comments down below and I will see ya in the next video.
He's the Retro Bird, yeah, and he's talking about video